Well, Tropical Storm Bonnie's slow movement is not only bringing heavy rain, but also hampering the damage assessments. Good evening and welcome to Weather Center. I'm Sharon Resulton.
And I'm Warren Madden. Emergency management officials in North Carolina say they can't begin to deploy relief supplies until those assessments are completed. With a look at the Tropical Storm Bonnie's latest path, here's Dave Schwartz in the Forecast Center.
Thank you, Warren and Sharon. This is Dave Schwartz and John Hope, our hurricane specialist. And of course, John's been keeping an eye on this since it came off of Africa about a week and a half ago. It was named Tropical Storm Bonnie 1 week ago today.
So it's been quite a week, and it's been now over the eastern part of North Carolina for a whole day. Came in at 5 o'clock yesterday and exiting even as we speak.
That's good news, but it's exiting and then heading up the coast, we believe, and for that reason, a tropical storm warning is in effect for New York City, among other places, and Long Island, actually from Watch Hill, Rhode Island, all the way southward to the New River Inlet. A tropical storm warning is in effect. They'll probably be dropped in North Carolina toward morning, I would imagine.
Oh, I'm sure they will as the low center moves off.
Let's take a look at that low center here. There it is. That's the tropical storm here, the former Hurricane Bonnie. This, by the way, is another hurricane. That's Danielle. That's taking a similar track toward the United States. We'll have an update on what we can possibly expect from that. But right near this, right near Tropical Storm Bonnie, right near the center of the circulation, we have got ourselves a reporter, a man who's been on the scene now for a couple of days. It's dark out there tonight, Jeff, but I know you've been getting buffeted around by wind and heavy rain.
Yeah, and the rain actually has picked up here, Dave, in the last, I'd say about a half an hour or so. Must be some of the moisture wrapping around on the south side of Bonnie at the present time, but it's a pretty steady, I'd call it a light to occasionally a little bit heavier, what we call a moderate rain. We'll pan over there and show you up into the lights. It's coming down pretty good. It's a good soaking rain, but the wind isn't quite what it was earlier. Earlier today we had winds gusting as high as 60 and 65 miles an hour here in Nags Head. Not really too much in the way of any damage, though, in Dare County. Talked to the emergency management, and they said, aside from some tree limbs down here and there, a couple of power outages, particularly in Manio, things really weren't all that terribly bad. Dave?
This is John Hope, Jeff.
Okay.
Is that wind taking on any definite direction? The last time I talked to you, you said that it was light, mostly from the southwest, and now it's picked up some, has it not?
It has picked up a little bit, John. I'm still looking at the direction of the rain that is falling here, particularly in the lights. It's still mostly a southerly component, but I'd say maybe south-southwest right now.
I see. Well, our impression is that rain is going to be pretty light and last for a while. It doesn't look, the best I can see, that you're going to get very much more in the way of heavy rain there. But as you get farther and farther away from the center, I do think that the wind will pick up some.
John, I've had a couple people here ask me what's going on down more toward Cape Hatteras and that vicinity, and whether the wind has been worse there.
The wind has definitely been worse offshore. Of course, the automated station down there has a little bit of a high elevation, but we've seen the wind gusting down there to 88 miles an hour for about the past 2 or 3 hours. And up north of you, even at Cape Henry, we've had 70 mile an hour sustained wind, 69, I think.
So we're kind of in between here, and we're getting a little bit of a lull area, I guess, in between those two windy areas.
Okay, Jeff, well, you hang in there, and we're anxious to find out what you had to report the next time around.
John, we got some new information on Tropical Storm Bonnie. Pressure continues to rise.
It's 983. I think that might be a slight fall, Dave, from what the previous estimate was. This is a reconnaissance report. Didn't have any reconnaissance while it was over land, but now the center is getting out over the water, so they tell us it's at 35, 55, and 75, 47, which is right just about there on the Outer Banks.
Well, the good news for our friends in North Carolina, as the center of this circulation moves out to the northeast, is that the rain and the wind is coming to an end. And that's good news. 250,000 people are without power here in North Carolina. Many people will be spending the night in shelters. Here are the latest data on Tropical Storm Bonnie as of 8 p.m. John, maximum sustained wind 70 miles per hour, movement northeast at 8 miles an hour, and since the center is right near where Jeff was, on the Outer Banks, that'll be moving out to sea.
That will be moving out to sea, and it's not moving very rapidly, as you can see, but 8 miles an hour, that's a pretty definite movement towards the northeast, and we think that will continue, eventually some acceleration.
Now, this was out to sea, and it became a hurricane out to sea because it was over warm waters. It weakened over land, but as it reemerges, are we likely to see some strengthening?
Well, they're always weakened over land, of course. Now, it's kind of iffy up here because it is pretty warm water just as it comes off. As it proceeds a little bit towards the northeast, the water won't be quite so warm. So therefore, we think there might be some strengthening, but not substantial. But it only takes 5 more miles an hour to be a hurricane.
That's right. So even a tropical storm could pass not too far off the shores of New Jersey, Long Island, southern New England.
Yes, it could, and we sort of made ourselves a kind of a wide path, but we think the path will be something like so. And the most likely path is for the center to pass just offshore of Cape Cod and the islands.
Well, thank you, John. That's a wrap on Tropical Storm Bonnie. There's also another tropical system out there that's headed toward the United States right now. That would be Hurricane Danielle. And the reconnaissance plane's been flying in that one late this afternoon, too.
Yeah, this has been sort of an oddly structured storm. The winds much stronger over here east of the center than they are to the west, and the pressure has been very high for that kind of wind. But the new reconnaissance gave us 992 millibars, which is down more like it should be with that kind of a wind.
And this track looks vaguely similar to the one we saw Bonnie take.
It's a little bit north of it, but it is very similar, and we also think it's going to take that right turn, and we hope that right turn will be soon enough and sharp enough to miss our coastline.
So something like this, perhaps, a little further offshore.
Well, we're kind of hoping that, and that is pretty
took.
much the indications we're getting. But again, this is not etched in stone yet.
Right. So we've got 2 tropical systems to watch. A hurricane still at least a couple of days away from the United States, potentially.
Potentially.
And then a tropical storm moving up toward Delaware, New Jersey, Long Island, and southern New England.
And thankfully, nothing else on the wings that we can see so far.
Right. This is keeping us plenty busy.
Right, it is.
Thanks so much for your expertise, John. That is a look at Tropical Storm Bonnie and Hurricane Danielle. It's going to be a very active weekend, no matter where you are along the East Coast. So keep the Weather Channel in mind, whether it's on your TV screen here or on our website at weather.com. Elsewhere in the United States, a cold front is dipping southward out of the plains and Great Lakes, and there's some action along that front. Let's turn it back to the studio for a look at some of those storms.
All right, thanks very much, Dave. As we take a look at the rest of the United States, really the only major weather system that is impacting the continental U.S. aside from Tropical Storm Bonnie is right here in the midsection of the nation, where we have a frontal system and a low-pressure area pushing through the plain states now and moving over toward the mid-Mississippi River Valley. Let's bring it a little tighter here, and you can see the low centered in eastern South Dakota, cold front extending down in through Kansas, and that is where we're seeing some heavier thunderstorms tonight. Farther to the east, we're seeing some precipitation along the warm front also, and as we check that out, you can see just a few showers around the Chicagoland area now, pushing out into Lake Michigan. Still some showers coming down, maybe a sprinkle heading in toward Champaign, Urbana, and Danville over the next hour or two. And then as you head up in toward the Quad Cities, we're seeing some showers and a few rumbles of thunder. Farther to the west and southwest, though, into Kansas, that is where we're having some heavier weather tonight, and you can certainly see it right here, reaching from around St. Joseph, Missouri, all the way back down toward Dodge City. We do have a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings here in southwestern Kansas, and we've seen 60-mile-an-hour thunderstorm wind gusts in Russell County and Lincoln County here in central Kansas. Let's bring it in a little closer now into the area around St. Joseph, Missouri and Kansas City, give you a little bit of idea of what's happening here. You can see the most of the storm action to the northwest of Kansas City right now, but St. Joseph seeing some rough weather around your neighborhood, heading into northwestern Missouri, and then as we head down in toward Manhattan, Kansas, and over toward Concordia, some heavier thunderstorms at the current hour. So please be careful. These storms do have a history of producing some very gusty winds and some hail. We've seen hail reports up to about an inch or so in diameter, so we're getting up to quarter-sized hail. As we check our temperatures around the nation, it is another hot evening here into the Red River Valley. 98 degrees right now in Dallas, 98 on the other side of the Red River heading up in toward Oklahoma City. Pleasant night in Boston, 72 degrees right now, 80 in New York City. But of course we are concerned with what's going to be happening with Tropical Storm Bonnie after it emerges off of the shore, comes offshore out of the eastern North Carolina area. Let's check out the forecast now for the entire nation. Here's what it's looking like right now. Let's take it on into a Friday, and let's do that now with Sharon.
Okay, thanks, Warren. Pay close attention to all these fronts on the map because each one will play a bit of a role in your morning weather.
Hurricane Bonnie became a tropical storm this afternoon. It has become a hurricane once again. Hurricane Bonnie. This is our update from the Weather Channel. Welcome to Weather Center. I'm Dave Schwartz. In Virginia Beach tonight, well, it looks like the way it looked in South Carolina and North Carolina the last couple of days. Look at the swirl. There's the center of Bonnie. It moved on shore here yesterday near Cape Fear, meandered on up the coast, was inland most of the day, and has now reemerged out near Kitty Hawk, out on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. It weakened to 70 miles an hour. It has re-strengthened based on information that we have gleaned from reconnaissance planes. And if you'll notice right in here, look at all the moisture streaming back into Norfolk. We've had tremendous rains there, and winds have been gusting over 60 miles an hour routinely. 200,000 people are without power, and we go now to Norfolk, Virginia, speaking with Steve Stone of the Virginian Pilot newspaper in Norfolk. The weather has really gotten bad there, Steve, and it's getting worse. What's going on?
Well, we're getting a buffeting here. We've been getting it for the last several hours. Hurricane-force winds have been coming in for about the last 4 hours. We've had gusts up to around 90 miles per hour. We've got extensive power outages. About 200,000 homes are out throughout the region right now. The police are having problems with the 911 system in the city of Portsmouth. That's been down. We have some buildings that have lost roofs, including a 30-unit apartment building in Norfolk. Part of the facade of an old school has come down in the last few minutes. We haven't had any reports of serious injuries from around the area, but the police in Virginia Beach and Norfolk are having a terrible time with sightseers who are trying to go out there and see what's happening. And with all the debris and the flooding on the roads, that's very dangerous.
Going to continue for at least the next 4 or 5 hours. We're looking at video from Virginia Beach right now. We can see the driving rain and some folks trying to drive through it. And yeah, I see what you mean. Gusts to 60 and 70 at the airport, and as you said, up to 90 miles per hour. So we're receiving hurricane-force gusts. We've got an up-close radar now on Norfolk, Virginia, on our other graphic system, and you can just see those bands of precipitation just coming right on into Norfolk at the present time. And I understand you've had about 4 or 5 inches, and that's going to continue tonight here, Steve.
Yeah, it's been coming down in barrels quite often throughout the night, and it sort of caught everybody off guard because the feeling was, well, it's starting to wind down, it's going to head away here, and now it's really kicking up here as it comes in off the ocean.
Well, Steve, just hunker down, hang in there tonight. It looks like it's going to be rough for about the next 4 or 5, maybe 6 hours. Really may not let up until tomorrow morning. Thank you, Steve Stone from the Virginian Pilot newspaper. Colin Marquis? It was a tropical storm. Now it's a hurricane. Norfolk is in the, perhaps in the developing northern eye wall of this thing.
Right, and we feel that the hurricane is moving very, very slowly. In fact, in the last few hours, looking at the radar imagery, it looks like it's really nearly stationary across the northern Outer Banks, and that's why we're continuing to see that feed coming in off the Atlantic, bringing that rain and the gusty winds right into the Norfolk area.
So as long as the eye is southeast of Norfolk, until that moves north away from town, we're going to be in the worst weather of this whole storm.
We're going to continue to see those northeasterly winds, and until that eye moves up to their latitude, which is quite a ways, it takes several hours for that to happen,
yeah,
the winds will then come around to the northwest, but not until then.
Well, based on that information, I've got a plea to our friends in the Tidewater of Virginia. If you'd like to go outside and take a look at these hurricane-force winds and what they can do, forget about it. Just stay here on the Weather Channel as long as power holds out. We'll have video, because how many trees does it take you out?
And the other important thing, Dave, to remember is that we're coming up on a high tide period around 1:30 local time right in the Norfolk area, so that water level along the ocean is going to continue to come up until that time.
That's right, and we're expecting over 1,000 homes to be inundated with water. This could be as bad as the February 4th nor'easter we had in the Tidewater. Well, I'll tell you what, the weather was the worst yesterday in North Carolina, and Jeff Morrow has been stationed in Nag's Head since then. Jeff, looks a lot quieter there than it is in Norfolk tonight.
Oh, it's immensely quieter, Dave, and it's kind of interesting to me that we have this system, and I actually am not that far away from the center of where the circulation, or the eye, if you will, is with this whole system. And normally with a tropical system, you would think, well, most of the highest winds would be right in the eye wall or right near the center of circulation. That isn't the case with this, with Bonnie right now. It's a little bit farther north on up toward Norfolk, or it was a little bit farther south down toward Hatteras here, and where the center of circulation was, it really wasn't all that bad. And that's basically what we're looking at here tonight. And actually Dare County, Currituck County up a little bit north from here, really didn't have that much damage at all. A little bit of soundside flooding. Highway 12 south of here on Hatteras Island had a little bit of overwash, but overall things actually went really well, so people here were feeling very fortunate. Unfortunately, it looks like that bad weather is now translated up to Norfolk.
It sure has. It's a terrible night here in Norfolk. We're glad that you are safe there in Nags Head, North Carolina. Have a good, safe night. Get some sleep, Jeff. We appreciate your live feeds from the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Well, one big question is, once the weather improves tomorrow morning in Norfolk, where does this hurricane go? Well, that's why we check in with our expert here, Colin Marquis. Our hurricane, as we check on this tracking map, follow this along with me here, moved to the west this past weekend, just missed the Bahamas and Puerto Rico. Then it started to make the turn and is now moving northeast at 8 miles an hour. But unfortunately, a northeast track takes it close to Rehoboth Beach, Atlantic City, New York City, Long Island, and southern New England. What do you have to say to that?
The latest official track from the Hurricane Center is very similar to the one from 5 o'clock. Takes it just south of Nantucket and Cape Cod, but that means that later on tomorrow, it looks like Cape Cod and the eastern end of Long Island will be at closest distance from Bonnie after it passes by southern New Jersey. So those are the areas that stand the greatest chance of seeing the strongest winds later on tomorrow and the first half of tomorrow night.
So from Norfolk to Boston, we need to keep an eye on this next 36 hours. Colin Marquis, thanks so much for your expertise. Check us out on our website, weather.com, of course, 24 hours a day available to you, as we are here at the Weather Channel. Up on deck here, as our team coverage continues of the U.S. weather, is Warren Madden. He's got a look at some stormy weather in the nation's midsection. Warren?
Right, you are, Dave. Much of the nation continues to enjoy some nice weather, but we do have some storms smack dab in the middle of the nation. Let's take a look at the map right now, and you can see that we have, in addition to Hurricane Bonnie, newly renamed or newly upgraded Hurricane Bonnie, along the shores of North Carolina, we also reach into the center of the nation, and we do have some showers and thunderstorms into the midsection of the nation as this front starts pulling its way across the Plain States and into the mid-Mississippi River Valley. Now, we had seen some showers earlier in Chicago. Those are pretty much died out now. We still have a few showers and storms here from southeastern Iowa over into western Illinois, but it's really a little farther back into Missouri and across Kansas especially. We're seeing a lot of thunderstorm activity going into this late evening here across places from the north of Kansas City all the way down in around toward Wichita and reaching back over toward Dodge City. Focusing on a little bit here, you can see some very strong storms starting to head in here to the Chillicothe area into northwestern Missouri. Also here around Manhattan, coming over toward Topeka, some stronger thunderstorms. And as we head into southern Kansas, looks like Wichita will be seeing some stronger storms rumbling through over the next couple of hours, and some of these storms now heading into the northern part of Oklahoma. Okay, we take a look at the current map here. Where is all this going as we go into the day on your Friday? Well, what we're looking at as we go into the day on Friday is going to be low temperatures dropping only into the 70s all the way up into southern New England, but of course all eyes along the eastern seaboard still on Hurricane Bonnie. We'll be filling in this dot here in just a few minutes here, since it has been newly upgraded, and as we go through the day it will be slowly drifting northeastward. And so anywhere from the Delmarva Peninsula northward to southern New England, please stay tuned to the Weather Channel as we continue to follow the progress of Hurricane Bonnie and let you know how it will affect you and your friends and family here along the eastern seaboard. We'll also see some showers and thunderstorms along this front as it pushes south into the mid-Mississippi River Valley, and a new front coming into northern Minnesota bringing some showers in toward International Falls. Heaviest amounts of rainfall will be along the eastern seaboard with Hurricane Bonnie and back here into the midsection of the nation.
Hurricane this morning, then a tropical storm by evening, and now has been upgraded to a hurricane once again. Bonnie has moved back out over the open water, is now just to the east of the Outer Banks, North Carolina. And there are the latest coordinates if you're plotting at home, centered at 36.2 north, 75.5 west, near Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Sustained winds of 75 miles per hour, making it a minimal hurricane, moving to the northeast at 8. Estimated central pressure 985 millibars. Let's go ahead and take a peek at the tropical storm warnings. And I should note that these are tropical storm warnings, not hurricane warnings, because the hurricane force winds are actually located on the eastern side of Bonnie and the southeastern side of Bonnie. In other words, they're out over open water. It will not affect land. So that's an important thing to note. Notice, too, that the tropical storm advisories go no further south than Cape Lookout. From Cape Lookout northward all the way up toward Watch Hill, Rhode Island. And tropical storm watches from Watch Hill, Rhode Island on up toward Plymouth, Massachusetts. What does the tropical storm watch means? What does it mean? It means simply that tropical storm conditions are possible in or within 36 hours. So we'll be watching things even this far north as Bonnie continues to move very close to the coast and move to the northeast. Will it continue to strengthen? Not really likely. Sea surface temperatures start getting a little more marginal the further north you go. Movement will be fairly slow. As a matter of fact, we're going to be talking about Bonnie still moving in this direction right on through your Friday and on into Saturday. So it's going to move very, very slowly. There's a look again at the radar. You can see that circulation. You can see how Norfolk has been getting hit really hard with bands of heavier rain. We're going to be talking about the Norfolk area again as we continue our live coverage from the update desk from the resource area, and we're going to be talking about the potential for how much rain's going to fall, the very, very gusty winds continuing, and what that would mean for folks from the Norfolk area, you folks watching, what you can expect as you head into the night and when you can expect some of this to let up. So be sure and tune in at the top of the hour. Again, Norfolk back down toward Elizabeth City, some of the heavier rainfall and some of that very slowly edging northward. If you notice that, pretty soon it'll be moving on into the Salisbury area as we head into the overnight. Another hurricane to talk about, this is Danielle, out here into the Atlantic, passing well to the north of the Leeward Islands, should pass well to the north of Puerto Rico as well. Sustained winds of 90 miles per hour, moving west-northwest at 17, central pressure at 992 millibars. This may increase in intensity as we head through time. That's a possibility. We'll be keeping an eye on it. As far as where Danielle is going to go, well, we think it's going to continue on its present track. A trough digging across the eastern portion of the U.S. will hopefully recurve this on up northward before it makes its way to the U.S. coast. But as you and I both know, when we start talking long range about the tropics, well, you can't etch anything in stone. So keep an eye on this one as well. We'll be watching it, of course, for you. Tropical storm Howard. Well, here's something that's happened. This was once a hurricane, now a tropical storm. Talk about marginal sea surface temperatures. This is moving into an area of cooler water and therefore should continue to dissipate. Never really a threat to land as it's been moving away from coastal Mexico and away from the U.S. I promised you a look, too, at the lower 48. That wraps up our tropics. And again, I'll reiterate, we're going to be talking more about Hurricane Bonnie as we go back to the forecast center in just a few minutes, the top of the hour after your local forecast. But I did want to mention this area of low pressure. Very potent storms here. We're talking about winds around 65 miles per hour around St. Joseph, Missouri. That's our current map, and within this area, still expecting some severe weather as we go into the overnight. So anywhere from the panhandle of Texas, stretching up through eastern Iowa, maybe even into Chicago. We've got a band of some showers and thunderstorms across northwestern Illinois. But there's a look at some of the stronger storms, and let me zoom in a little closer. Heavier rain around Topeka, St. Joseph, another band of thunderstorms moving just off to your north there. Some very, very active weather here. Extremely tough travel along I-70 all the way out toward Manhattan, Kansas, and all the way on in toward Kansas City. So we're going to find the potential for some ponding on the roadways here, and you need to watch out for very, very gusty, if not damaging winds. Once again, Weather Center coming up next. A more detailed look at your Friday forecast, along with the latest on Bonnie.
Tropical storm Bonnie leaves a path of destruction along the Carolina coast and now threatens the Northeast when and where it may arrive next on Weather Center.
This program was sponsored by Nationwide Insurance.
She came to Nationwide for auto and life insurance. Our homeowners helped him after a fire. They needed help planning for retirement. For these different needs, Nationwide Insurance offers different solutions. Auto, home, life, financial services, retirement planning. Different needs, different solutions. Nationwide, on your side.
Over 13 million satisfied insurance and financial services customers throughout the U.S.
We all love the sun, but nothing damages your skin like UV rays. All kinds of skin from